Hello, welcome to day one, week 3 of practicing yoga and me reacting to it. This week I'm going to continue working on my lower back and hip flexibility. I found a 30-minute yoga deep hip stretch for experienced practitioners by Yoga with Bird on YouTube. Not sure, I skimmed through the video, haven't done it yet, and I think it's going to be doable. It's just it's a yin based practice, so yin is a lot deeper and slower stretches even from the ones that we did last week, even though there was yin elements in that one. We're just gonna get it started. Thanks for being here for week 3. Let's hope I can keep it up. I think we start in a wide-legged child's pose, and so yin yoga is more of like a medicinal yoga from what I understand. It's slower paced, and you hold the poses for like 2 to 3 minutes at a time. So even though this video is sped up, oh, that's me just turning on the white noise machine, but even though this video is sped up, I spend a lot of time in each of the poses according to the instructor's guidance. And so I think it's really involved in like ancient Chinese medicine, and it involves really massaging and getting into the deep connective tissues in your body and releasing, like I think it's a lot where your lymph nodes exist, and really getting into like the ligaments and joints, and maybe not so much the muscles. I'm speaking from a quick Google or a quick Wikipedia search, but I love yin. When I lived in my old neighborhood, I would do a yin class every week, and that was really what helped me somatically like get into the zone of somatics, which helped me finally get into some healing with my dissociation. I was finally listening to emotional cues in my body, because you just lay there and your body feels supported, and you finally give it a safe environment to then let emotions come out. And really, really, really powerful. I don't think I'd be the same person without it. So I love yin. It's slower. I'll go back to watching the movie, but a downward dog. So we went from a wide-legged child's pose for a long time to a downward dog to a three-legged dog to a pigeon pose for a very long time. And the instructor has you sit up in the pigeon instead of going right down it at first, which is hard. I don't even think, again, with the lower hips and back inflexibility, I can't even sit up when my legs are like that. Like my back is at this diagonal where it could be more up. And so this instructor also leads with the left, which I appreciate because I'm a right dominant, and I like to get through the left side of my body first because it's always more tense and more pained. Actually, that's not true. It's not more pained, but it is always more tense, especially in a flow. So this is a pigeon pose on my left side. And you just sit there for a long time. 2 to 3 minutes in a pose feels like a long time, and your mind is spinning. At least my mind is spinning. I'm not constantly adjusting, but every once in a while I'm adjusting, making sure my back leg is out long enough. In yin, a lot of the time I have to repeat my mantra in my head. I am here, I am safe, I am enough. I am here, I am safe, I am enough. Because you're just so still and so rooted to the ground that it leaves a lot of freedom for your mind to wander, which is good. And part of mindfulness and meditation is letting your mind wander and observing those feelings and thoughts go through your head. But there comes a point where it's too out of my head, and I need to remind myself to come back to my body and feel the ground and feel my body touching the mat and things like that. So this practice is a little bit harder to talk through because there's less poses. Back to downward dog. Start with a standing pigeon I don't know if that's what that's called, but upward pigeon first. And go into full pigeon. And I remember, even though right is my dominant side, I remember fidgeting a little bit more on this side for the first time. I think instructors in yin are really positive too. A lot of the time they're really about resting and relinquishing control over the poses, which I love, and I thought that was so useful to feel in my body for the first time. We spend so much time clenched up and upset and stuffing our brains with upsetting things, and upsetting things happen in our lives, and the body's keeping score. I hate to say it that way, but the body is keeping score. And yin is a really amazing place. Like, I mean, a lot of yogas are an amazing opportunity to release some of that stuff and find a language for some of that stuff when you don't even know that you're thinking about it in your subconscious. But yin specifically creates the space to process things that are happening that you may not even be aware are happening in your body. I have another friend who said yin actually got her out of burnout too. So it's awesome. Do a downward dog into a yogi squat. This was very difficult for me to settle into, and especially to hold. I felt so beautiful though, because the sun was coming in, and I was like, oh, yes. That was a nice moment, even though I was struggling because my hips are so tight. I noticed my back, like, I think that my back needs to be a little bit more straight as well. But that's just because I think I can't, yep, I think my lower back is just not flexible for that. And I have that shoulder below my shoulder blade hump that came back a little bit more pronounced this week. I remember doing this, and the instructor was like, "Nuh-uh, only go until you slightly feel the stretch." And so I recalibrated. I was supposed to have my upper back was supposed to be straight, and my shoulder blades were supposed to be straight, and I was supposed to be slightly leaning in. A little bit of windshield wipers in between poses. It's always a good one. I have no idea what this pose is called, but it feels so good. Essentially, my legs are in like two 90-degree angles against each other, and then whichever leg is in the back, you're twisting the opposite way behind you. And it is so delicious. I thought it was going to be very hard, but that gets your whole side body. And so even as I struggle with carpal tunnel and pinched nerves in the back in my shoulder blades, this is a back and hip flexibility yin practice, but it does tap on all the other parts. And newsflash, all these parts are connected. So I feel like even when I'm feeling some pain in my hands and wrists, it's like, oh, it's probably linked to some issue with my lower back, which is probably linked to the issues I have with my ankles and bunions and things like that. And baby steps towards giving your body a break. But the stretch is really amazing. More accessible. I feel like it stretches similar things, but is more accessible than deer pose. Deer pose is a really, really pointed stretch to the hip flexors. See how long I'm just in this pose? In the actual moment, I am like struggling so hard to stay present. But it takes a long time sometimes to get into a pose, and the instructor does a good job, like reminding us, okay, you're here. Can you relax your hips a little bit more? Can you let your shoulders fall a little bit more? Can you breathe just a little slower? Can you breathe into some of the discomfort you're feeling? Here, I feel like I can see that my torso doesn't want to hit the ground at all. It's like where my butt is and my torso is almost still flat, and my torso should kind of be twisting in. So there's an example of that inflexibility that I have right in that area. I had a harder time settling in on the other side, I think. Yeah, but sitting for a long time really helps you slowly relax more and more. And even when you think you've relaxed all the joints and corners of your body, the instructor says, can you relax a little more? And then you always find a little bit more give to give. And it always feels good at each stage of relaxing or leaning into the pose. I promise I did not fall asleep. Yeah, then you do a pose to counterbalance what you just did, which is nice. You're stretching out the side body, and that hugging yourself is bringing it in. The pretzel twist, where I'm like, ah, yeah. My face goes, ah. That was in last week's flow too, that pose, the pretzel pose. I feel like my right foot is supposed to be up a little bit more. But we'll take what we can get when we're starting with really inflexible hips. Really just breathing into whatever discomfort I feel in those moments. Giving myself a nice, juicy hug of gratitude, somatically shaking it out. Hugging myself, thanking myself. Right, and then I think there's just a very, very long savasana. I should always film this time of day. The sunlight looks really nice. Is that golden hour? Golden hour is sunset. Yeah, with yin, I think I'll always do a real shavasana because it's all about resting and indulging in that supported resting state. Last week, my shavasana was more of a butterfly pose, but this week I'll definitely do the shavasana in the stereotypical corpse pose. Yeah, I think I start crying like a lot, like noticeably right here. Yeah. Trying to continue to stay present. And I think even, let it come up, like let it come through you. That's really important in Shavasana or at any point in your practice. But there still is that allowing it to happen and then allowing it to flow out of you and through you and moving on, because it's just natural. There's no rules to having emotions and feelings. Like all of that is just natural. This is part of being human. And yeah. I'm like getting worked up again thinking about it, but yeah. At the end of the video, I explain why I was tearing up a little bit, what I was thinking about. All right, we're coming out of resting pose or corpse pose and waking up the body. I am pushing myself up from the ground. And this instructor says when you're coming out of Shavasana, turning to your right is easier on your heart. And I need to fact check that. I'm not quite sure. Okay, thank you.
I feel very, very chill. It was actually difficult. I misjudged that. Especially, I really felt those long standing pigeon poses. There's one twist, I don't know what she called it, twisting and going down. I thought that was going to kind of hurt as much as a deer pose, but that felt so good along the side of the body that was being stretched. I think this is doable for the week. Yeah, especially towards the end. Oh yeah, it was like Shavasana. I got very emotional. There's a lot of comfort that my younger child never got. My inner child needs, and very frustrated at the lack of care and attention that she got sometimes, and I was just crying in frustration. But that's amazing. I never think or try to express that, when I'm at work, or I don't know, sometimes I express it with friends. Yeah, just, and I felt that frustration. That's the power of yoga. Stored emotion makes the body feel less safe. And the less safe the body is, the less present we can be. So I'm grateful. I think that was a good flow, and I'll continue it this week. Definitely think it would be good for hip flexibility. Not as much lower back, definitely hip, but that's a good start anyway. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Yep. All right. Week 3, we're here. We'll keep it going. Take care.